This is going to be a video of 5 exercises, and the topic for today is isometrics. So isometrics are a great way to activate increased muscle fibers, which increases your strength. They're boring, but if you can get through this once a week, this just kind of targets the muscles that are more likely to shut down, and holding that position increases the neural activation of those muscles and decreases that kind of natural inhibition process. So the first one is a postural exercise. You're going to need a wall, and you're going to try and scoot your booty back up against the wall as much as you can. Now, you can either be Indian style or a straight leg. I like straight legs because it really forces you to get your pelvis neutral, meaning there should be a gap in between your low back and your wall there. And then you're going to get everything kind of stacked up. So your goal is to tuck your rib cage under and feel like you're cinching your kind of junction between your lower thoracic and upper lumbar. So basically right here, back against the wall. You're going to chin tuck, so kind of double chin as if someone was pulling the back of your hair up. And then you're going to pull your toes up towards you. Try to straighten out your knees as much as possible. And then you're going to try to get your shoulders and elbows against the wall. So pinching your shoulder blades back might activate this action, okay? So you want to try to keep your rib cage tucked down even though your shoulder blades are back and your elbows are on the wall. Advanced version is pinky, beginner version is thumbs against the wall. Keep that chin tuck, and then you're just going to hold. So if you want, you can do a little bit of kind of that snow angel motion, but you're just doing this inventory while you're holding in this position. So stomach muscles are in, rib cage is tucked, shoulders are pinched down away from your ears. Mine were creeping up a little bit, and then trying to apply as much pressure as you can into that wall. You may notice so the goal for all of these exercises is a full minute. You may notice after about 30-40 seconds, you just start to feel like it's easy. That means that you've lost something somewhere. So constant inventory of rib cage, can you tuck it back anymore? Shoulder blades, can you bring them back anymore? Elbows, can you press them into the wall anymore? Pinkies, can you press them into the wall anymore? And then after all that, are you like this, right? Have you lost your neck? So then go back through rib cage, shoulder blades, elbows, pinkies, chin tuck, knees straight, toes up. So again, shooting for about a minute for all of these. You can go longer. It should be somewhat challenging to finish that minute. Okay, second exercise, you're going to need an elastic band. Pretty flexible as far as which band you use. This one is a loop and it's pretty thick, but there's a lot of variation that you can accommodate a thicker or thinner band in this exercise. So you can either be sitting or standing, doesn't matter, but you're going to set your shoulders back and down. So when you do that, just like in that last exercise, try to dissociate this motion from this motion, okay? So don't let your rib cage splay, even though you're trying to pull your shoulder blade back and down. And if you can, try to isolate that little area right there in front of your shoulder. See if you can get kind of an extra micro cinch of that humeral head back into the socket. So starting position, shoulders back and down, humeral head back and down, and then you're simply going to grab onto the band. I like to do palms in, depending on how tough your band is, anywhere between here to there. If it's super light, you can grab it really narrow, and then you're simply externally rotating. So again, this band is pretty taut, so I'm not going to have too much movement, but it doesn't matter because once you get set into that position, same thing, you're just holding. Goal is to hold for about a minute. Inventory to take on this one is that rib cage, number one. It's going to be probably easy to extend at that thoracic spine and let your rib cage splay forward. And then it's also going to be easy to let your hands draw inwards. So keep tension on that band. Keep yourself challenging. If you can get a good shake out of this exercise towards the end of that 1 minute, that's awesome. Be aware of your neck. So it's easy to let your chin jut forward. So from a side view, we want our ear to be stacked directly over our acromion, which is that kind of pointy area in our shoulder, and then just holding. It'll feel like you're giving yourself a little bit of a double chin, but it also should lengthen the back of your neck, as if, again, kind of ballerina style, as if someone's pulling from the crown of your head. So just external rotation, rotator cuff here, these muscles have a tendency to get weak. You should feel some fatigue kind of in through that area. Okay, exercise number 3. Of course, abs. This is just going to be a bow or pike. There's a bunch of different names for it. There's a bunch of different variations for it. Your goal is to hold in the same position for the full minute. However, I'm not as concerned about the position as I am the drawing in. So probably the easiest position is here. And take note, my shoulders are back and down. My neck is long. I'm not rounded. The most challenging position is probably legs straight and arms extended up overhead. Play around with variations somewhere in between there so that you're able to draw your lower abdomen inward the entire time. So from a side view, this should be narrow. It shouldn't be poofed in order to give you that leverage point. No point in having a strong rectus abdominis, which is our sit-up muscle, without a strong transverse abdominis, which is our stabilizing muscle. The other thing you want to watch out for is this. So what I've done here is I've rolled back, I've tucked my tail under, and right now I'm just hanging out on my lumbar spine, and it's super easy. So it's that kind of balance point of feeling like I'm just barely rocked back from my sit bones, my ischial tuberosities, and you're just holding in that position. The single inventory for this exercise is belly in and breathe. But the breathing is easier to notice than the belly in. So constantly thinking, can I bring my belly button back towards my spine? And if you want to figure out how to do it wrong, go into that hardest position, feel how your stomach wants to poof out, go into the easiest position, see how much you can draw inward as if you're hollowing out your abdomen, and find that happy medium. Okay, 4th exercise. Posterior glute med. It's called a wall burner. You're gonna use your wall to scoot your lower hip way back up against that wall. So I can't really scoot back this right hip any farther. And then I just stack myself up against the wall, and you're gonna lift the top leg. So in this position, you'll immediately feel muscles on the side of your hip fire. Our goal for this is to get the muscles that naturally shut down to fire, which are usually just behind that one that easily pops up. So this is TFL, this is posterior glute med. A nice way to do that, I'm just gonna give you a better view here, is to, again, cinching that lower hip back. You're gonna turn your toes up. So you're gonna externally rotate your thigh as much as you can, and you're gonna hold in that position. Notice I haven't done this. So this action isn't actually coming from my hip joint, it's coming from here. So I'm scrunching my pelvis up towards my rib cage, and that's not what you want. So you want to stay long here, toes turned up as much as you can, and you'll feel that muscle closer to your glute kind of pop up pretty easily. So the inventory to do here is pretty much just twofold. Is keep the toes turned up and try to get that motion from your hip, which means your kneecap will start to face up towards the ceiling, as opposed to just turning from your ankle. Okay, so external rotation at the hip, and then again, making yourself narrow here, trying to cinch your stomach back towards that wall. As you're going through this video, sometimes it's nice to have a timer. It's nice to take note of muscle imbalances, if one side is easier than the other, especially with this one. So again, shooting for about a minute. If a minute is easy on this one, and you promise that you've turned your toes up towards the ceiling as much as you possibly can, then you can add a band, and you can either put that band around your toes, ankles, knees, or thighs. So Other side here, again, cinch that hip underneath. So the purpose of the cinch is that if I'm sitting a little bit forward away from that wall, when I go to turn my toes up, I'm gonna roll back. So this hip bone is farther back than this one, and that's gonna activate TFL more so than glute med. TFL usually doesn't need activating. That is the cause of IT band syndrome. So this is the muscle that should fire. Toes up, belly in, and then feel free to kind of poke around in that muscle, make sure you're getting that guide of fire there. Another way to make this more challenging would be to increase the pressure backwards of your heel against that wall. And that can be nice too if you're not able to quite get that muscle here to fire and it's more the one in the front. Just press your heel back into the wall and that will get glute max to fire a little bit, which will overflow into glute med. Hold, 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 belly in, toes up, belly in, toes up. And then last exercise is just on your stomach, Superman. So Superman's pretty straightforward, a lot of variations, but all we're gonna do is fly. Things that you wanna think about here are not overarching your back. So there's no point in crunching here. It's better to, again, kind of lift up at your abdomen a little bit as if you don't wanna press your belly button down into the ground as much. And that's just gonna neutralize your lumbar spine, make it less likely for you to kink there. Poke around on your upper glutes. You should feel like those guys are firing. If it feels like it's just coming from your hamstrings, just turn your toes out slightly. That external rotation from your hip will get your glute to fire. And then feel free to play around with your arms. So you can do what we call a W arm. That's really activating rhomboids, trying to pinch your shoulder blades back together. You might feel those external rotators that you turned on with the TheraBand a couple exercises ago. Out overhead in a Y position is going to engage your low back muscles a little bit more. And it's also going to challenge your shoulder blade muscles. Low trap, middle trap. What you should not feel in the Y position is any pinching in the top of your shoulder or any shrugging of your shoulders up. So there should be space in between your ear and your shoulder when you're in that Y. If you want to do the Y, easiest option is going to be arms down by your side and just fly. That is all there is to it. Thanks.